Welcome back to another Edgy Podcaster podcast episode. It's me, Victoria Wolders, and also
me, Tim Stevenson.
And we're back for another awesome educational episode. Remember, here at the Edu Podcaster podcast, it's all about listening and learning. So let's listen and learn today. We are on our third episode, actually, focusing on saving the oceans. We did a little intro. We've had one expert. We had Britt. And now we get to move on to Danika. This will be amazing. And we're going to get to learn from Danika, from all her research, her skill set. And I'm just so excited to be part of this journey. Tim, we'd love for you to tell us more. And before you do that, if you're a listener and haven't checked out our edupodcaster.com website and learning resources, you can go there right now and learn about the details of this episode and our other episodes in the series of Save the Ocean. Okay, Tim, it's all yours.
Well, Danika is the Director of Education down at the Vancouver Aquarium and works with an organization called OceanWise. And so her role at the aquarium is to bring education and awareness about the state of the ocean and the awesome things that are going on there, and just to raise that awareness. Because when you think about the ocean, most people look at it and what they see is the surface, and what's going on below is it might as well be outer space, because it's just a very foreign environment. But Danika and her work at the aquarium is trying to change all of that. So this is a very interesting episode where she's going to teach us about the sort of things that are going on there and the ways that we can be involved.
That's fantastic. And so I think it's time for us to jump into this episode. What do you think, Tim?
Absolutely. Let's hear from Danika.
Fantastic. Here we go.
On a day-to-day basis, what sort of work do you do at the aquarium?
Yeah, so we use a variety of online teaching tools, both synchronous, so live streams, whether it's kind of, a Zoom video conference, as everybody's using a lot more these days. And that's a great way to connect to educators and experts, have direct video links to animals and exhibits and even the research that's going on behind the scenes. So we get to do sort of a virtual field trip into classrooms, and that really reduces a lot of geographical barriers as well. So we're actually part of a collaboration called Connected North, which delivers programs to rural and remote and Indigenous communities in Canada's North and Arctic. And it's really wonderful being able to talk about the tropics and coral reefs while standing in front of a living tropical habitat.
The aquarium can be a pretty amazing bridge for our community to learn about the oceans. Right, Tim? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, when you think about aquariums over the years, aquariums have been places people go to get splashed by a breaching orca, or to watch a dolphin jump through a hoop, or a sea lion balance a ball on his nose. But today, aquariums are really getting away from that, and they're more about education. And that's a very important piece that they're serving in the community.
And, some of us are lucky enough to have an aquarium in driving distance from us, which is pretty amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about what you would recommend our listeners to do when they go to an aquarium?
Well, definitely when you get to an aquarium, your natural inclination is to rush to the water and see the sea otters swimming around and this sort of thing, or to watch a show. But the aquariums are set up with the most amazing exhibits. And if you look at them in detail, you'll see a simulation of exactly what the oceans look like, and from all different regions of the world. It's very fascinating.
Wow, that is awesome. Well, we're going to go back to our expert now.
So we start off with a weekly video conference where we connect all the students together, and they can, start to get to know one another in that virtual face-to-face.
Okay.
As you said, a lot of people are going to now realize that that's more accessible to them. And then we also have an online classroom where they can chat, write blog posts, do assignments, do work together, kind of asynchronously. And we often really pose challenges to them to get involved and learn more about their local communities, and then share that with one another. And there's opportunities for them to have video conference breakout rooms to connect kind of beyond just that weekly meeting. But it's a really great way to have those conversations. We had folks from Halifax talking to students from Vancouver, as well as Manitoba and Saskatchewan, and it was great hearing kind of their assumptions of what life or economy was like in those provinces, and then having them immediately, explained to them by their peers. And it was a fantastic learning opportunity, not even just about oceans, but anything really.
It's pretty amazing to think in 2020, we have these experts at our fingertips, and how students can get involved, teachers can get involved, and be a part of this learning journey about saving the oceans. Tim, tell us a little bit more. Tell us some more insights into what our experts talking about.
Well, the idea of getting students across the country connected virtually is so cool, because if I'm living on the West Coast, but I really don't know much about the issues of the ocean on the East Coast, I can learn from them. And then what if I don't live on a coast at all? I can, if I'm in Winnipeg, for example, I can now connect with somebody on the coast and learn more about the ocean issues that they're dealing with. You figure a lot of the country is far from the ocean, so it's really not a big part of their day-to-day lives, but it's a great way that we can all learn from each other, and that's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So let's go back to our episode and listen to a little bit more.
OceanWise, as a conservation association, has identified kind of 4 major conservation issues that we focus on, and we make sure that that's being supported not only in our primary research component of the organization, but our conservation, education, and our aquariums. So OceanWise has a role in managing the Vancouver Aquarium as well as the Valencia, Spain Aquarium, and consulting with other aquariums around the world to help become conservation first aquariums too. And so those 4 major conservation areas are unsustainable resource extraction, which can be things like overfishing and unsustainable seafood. We look at habitat loss for all sorts of organisms. We look at pollution from everything from plastic to noise pollution in the water impacting animal behavior, and then of course climate change. And as you said, there's so many pieces to climate change. And so by kind of always looking at what fits into those 4 areas, you're completely right, kind of where do you start? But I think one of the really important things to remember is that for all of these, they're human-caused problems or issues. And the nice thing, the silver lining, is that means that they can be human innovation solutions to all of those problems. So we really look at kind of what every individual can do, what different changes they can make in their lives that ultimately will have a collective impact for improving the health of the oceans.
Well, I guess there are 4 conservation areas: unsustainable resource extraction, habitat loss, pollution, and Tim, what was that last one again?
Well, climate change, just the whole issue of climate change in general. And when it comes to the oceans, you've got your major issues of ocean acidification, sea level rising, shoreline erosion, these are major issues that come about because of the changing climate.
And, it sounds like we have a lot to learn. Okay, let's go back to our episode and let's listen to more of our expert.
It's hard to predict. It's changing all the time. That's another big impact of climate change, is that while we used to be able to look at years of records in the past to predict what the next year might look like, we're now seeing dramatic changes on a very short time scale. But it's really all about that observation and that data collection and that adaptation to those changes. The Vancouver Aquarium and OceanWise is part of a collective group of aquariums in North America that's all under NOAA's education team. And NOAA's a little bit like NASA for the oceans. Mm-hmm. And it's a great way of sharing information and sharing research and learning, again, from one another and the work that's being done, so that the more people know, the more data people have access to, then we can hopefully make kind of the best choices, even if sometimes they're the best guesses. But they're informed guesses, which is always what we want. And I think another big piece of that is also empowering more scientists. So not just the academics and the field researchers, but the citizen scientists too, because any person that's out there walking along the shore or making observations about what herring run, looked like last year, coming up, there's far more people out there to make those reports than any one scientist. So it's really getting lots of input and data from everyone.
Observation and data collection is so important in this journey of learning about saving our oceans. I think without it, I don't know where we'd be. And with the fact that we have so many scientists, researchers, and even community members contributing to these observations and data, we have so much knowledge at our fingertips. And thanks to the internet, we have that. Tim, any other insights?
Well, when it comes to the issue of climate change, I love the point that she made about how the scale of time that we're observing, changes have always occurred in the climate, but the rate of change is what's so shocking more recently in the last 10 or 20 years. And so the data that's being collected raises our awareness. And when more people are aware, then more people will care. And I think that's one of the most important things that will come from the work that's being done.
And at this time right now, we're going to encourage our listener just to put a pause on this podcast. Now, before you do that, I want you to think about what are ways that you can be aware and learn about our environment and our oceans that will lead us to care more. So I'm going to say that one more time. What are ways that we can learn about our environment so that we end up caring more? That connection between the aware and the care. Being aware and then caring. So what are ways that we can be aware? Take some time right now to pause this podcast and think about that. Okay, and now we're back. And we're now going to segue back to our expert.
Is there something about the oceans that we should know? What do you know that we should know in terms of the state of the ocean, the health of the ocean? Is there something that's going on that we should be concerned about or can help fix?
I think it comes back to those kind of, four main areas of, again, that unsustainable resource extraction, habitat loss, pollution, and climate change, is that, they sound like really big issues, and they are, but you can definitely make some huge impacts by making small changes. And so, once we can, gather, but I think now we can start gathering in groups of 6. So that's a perfect number for a shoreline cleanup or some of these direct actions that you can take. So choosing sustainable seafood, looking into where your seafood comes from, not only for how it's being fished and caught, but also the human rights and labor that's going into that seafood is really important. Looking at development and thinking about sustainable and resilient developments along the coastline so that we don't have the same kind of habitat loss that we've been seeing in some areas that have had a lot of hotels or resorts or condos being built really close to the coast. We can look at, again, those shoreline cleanups, cleaning up litter and pollution that's washing ashore from all areas of the globe. But also, again, going back to noise pollution and thinking, how many ferry trips do we need to take per year? Or could we see whales from the shore rather than on a whale watching boat? And kind of making choices about where our dollars and where our kind of consumer choices can influence different things. And that's a big piece for climate change. I think hopefully most of us grew up being told to turn the light switch off when we leave a room. But it's all of those small changes. And I think particularly right now during COVID-19, we're really seeing and kind of assessing and learning what can we do without. And we might miss some things, but we might also learn that life is a little bit better without some of them. And, thinking, could we keep up these new habits even afterwards? Because the big thing right now with the ocean is that humans have kind of felt disconnected from it, maybe even not really understood how it works, that it is kind of vast and infinite, whether it's a resource that they can just keep taking from. But if we start to think about caring for it and how we can connect to it on a continuing basis so that we don't exploit it, I think right now,
we should
that's the biggest issue facing our ocean.
She comes back to these 4 main areas again, but boy, she really hits hard when she talks about how maybe we rethink our trips and getting on the ferry. It's so hard because we want to see these places, we want to travel to these places and learn about these places. But of course, every time we do that, there's this sort of effect that is maybe negative. Trips on the ferry raise noise pollution that affects the migration and the communication among the whales. Whale watching tours, not necessarily a good idea. People love to go to the resorts on the coastlines. They're beautiful places. They're lovely to relax at, but they also have a very negative effect on the oceans because of the waste that they produce. These are hard questions, not easy to wrestle with at all.
And with that being said, let's go back to our expert to learn more.
I did find it ironic, though, to see the scientists buzzing in their powerboat to research silence in the oceans.
Yes, that's definitely a bit odd. One of my favorite videos, and we actually just recently had a live stream with Valeria, so there's going to be a recording going up on our OceanWise YouTube soon of that presentation, is that she takes all of her data from her hydrophones by rowing out to a wooden tower in the middle of the St. Lawrence and sitting on it. And so even at low tide, sometimes they can wade out to it. And then when the tide comes in, they're stuck there. And she just has these incredible stories of her field research. But I think, again, it's that innovation and looking for those solutions and that really had that great impact. Do I need to take a boat to go get that data? There's a a permanent hydrophone on the southern tip of Saturna Island here in our Gulf Islands that's actually on someone's property, kind of dangled off the cliffside in the water, and it collects amazing audio data. And so I think, again, they looked for volunteers and someone said, yeah, sure, you can put that on my property. And so I think as we work together and the more people are kind of pitching their creative and innovative ideas, that's another great way to make change.
Pitching our creative and innovative ideas. Throughout this episode, we've heard some pretty powerful statements. Would you agree with that, Tim?
Well, for sure. And the whole interesting thing that we can get from all of this is that anybody can be involved in positive change as long as they first know what the issues are. And in this case, Danika is raising some very important issues about the impact on the oceans. And what we need from young people today and students is for them to think about innovative ways to come up with solutions to the problems that we've been hearing about. For every problem, there is a solution. We can't just focus on the problem because that makes us all upset. We need to focus on the solution. And that's what we're being encouraged to do here.
Okay. And for those listeners right now, I think this is a great opportunity to put a pause on our podcast. And I want you to think of a problem that is in our oceans that you've listened to. And just be creative and think about a solution to that. So put a pause right now and think about what is an ocean problem and what is a solution to that. Okay, you're back from the pause, and I hope that you took some time to think about a problem and a solution. Sometimes it's just a matter of exploring that piece where we're needing to be vulnerable and we're needing to be creative. And it just starts with a thought. Even though you might think, oh, this is a silly idea, sometimes those ideas can actually be saving ideas. Okay, now back to our expert.
The first step is to have more people thinking about it. And
yes.
I think that will be a great outcome, a silver lining to this whole change in our lives right now is people are going to hopefully think about their travel or their work commute differently than they ever have before.
And in regard to the hydrophones, are you connected with the Ocean Network?
We are, yeah. So we do work with them and collaborate both with their education team and their research teams. So
can you tell us a bit about what they do?
They have so many different projects, but one of their focuses is that they have like a series of cables, both for audio data and video data and different things running along the sea floor so that they can set up these grids and these hubs to record and process. And one of my favorite initiatives that they have, kind of going back to citizen science, is that they have so much video and audio data that their teams can't necessarily watch it all. So as individuals, whether you're a student or you have some more time at home right now, you can actually log on to their website and watch sections of their video. And then if anything happens, you can record it for them and ping their scientists. And there was a great example, I think it was a 7 or a 9-year-old that saw several dogfish, a type of shark that hadn't been seen in this particular area before. And he flagged this huge portion of the video data that really showed people that this new species that hadn't previously been documented there and was interacting. And so you never know what cool discoveries you might make.
I always kind of thought that scientists and researchers were the ones that kind of made the big discoveries. But Tim, I think it's pretty cool that we have a kid that's taking the time to jump in and watch an online streaming video of the ocean. And here he is learning about dogfish and contributing to that global conversation on how to save the oceans. That's pretty cool. What do you think?
Well, when you think about those cameras that are part of the Ocean Network, they're recording all the time. And there's not necessarily somebody who can sit and watch them all the time. But if you go to the Ocean Network website, you can follow the links and end up watching recorded video that might have been from yesterday or the day before that hasn't yet been viewed. And so you can watch these things. And it's a great opportunity to see what's going on down there. There's some interesting creatures that they just may swim past your camera. Who knows?
Which would be awesome. So listeners, those people out there that are taking the time to listen to this series or maybe just this episode, take some time to learn about how you can be an active part of saving the oceans. That has been such an amazing journey. This episode, man, it just made me think more about how we can save our oceans. And we're that part in our Edgy Podcaster podcast episode where we put a challenge out to all our listeners. Tim, what do you think? What type of challenge can we put out to our listeners?
Well, the more you know about the oceans, the more you realize that there are some challenges. One of the things is, can you think of a part of the world where there's an ocean feature that you'd be most interested in maybe taking a virtual tour of? For instance, the Great Barrier Reef or the Mediterranean, which has recently been described as a dumping ground. What about the Great Pacific Ocean Gyre? What does that actually look like? So these sort of virtual tours would be fun to delve into, to spend some time searching the NOAA website. NOAA is spelled NOAA. That's the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. That's a fascinating website. Do you want to start a shoreline cleanup? Do you want to organize one of those shoreline cleanups? You could do that with the Great Canadian Shoreline Cleanup Organization. There's all kinds of things that you can get down to the aquarium. Can you go down to the aquarium and just look at the exhibits and listen in on some of the presentations that are given? So there's lots of things that you can do to raise your awareness and then get out and do something to help.
That's fantastic. And for all those that are listening right now, go to our edupodcaster.com website, learning resources, to see what other people are doing and some of our suggestions on how you can be active and create action. Because our challenge for you today is do something. Do something that will make yourself more educated about how to save the oceans. Do something that allows other people to create action. So our challenge today is do something. Now, for those that are into social media, we would love for you to use the hashtag EduPodcaster, and then we can connect with you. So make sure that whenever you put anything out on social media, put hashtag EduPodcaster, and hopefully we'll be able to connect with you soon. Well, Tim, do you have any last thoughts before we depart?
Well, like movie producer Craig Leeson says, with awareness comes caring. The more you know, the more you will care. So I think we just go out and learn more and care more and take action.
Fantastic. Well, I think with that, we're going to end this episode. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Edu Podcaster podcast. And hopefully you'll be able to come back and listen and learn. Until next time, stay well and continue to save the oceans.